So, the title of my talk, Celebrating Our Interdependence, Seeking the Common Good. I thought about humming this talk, thinking it would make it a whole lot easier to get through, but kind of slow me down after a while. So, when I first saw this title, I was a little frustrated that this was our theme for the month, because I thought, these themes come out from CSL. And I thought, well, maybe they haven't been paying attention. Don't they know how divided we are as a nation right now? And there's some countries, hello, that we're not even talking to or trying to kill. So I at first kind of pushed back a little bit, thinking, okay, what's going on here? But then, of course, as a minister, I have to remember our ultimate truth, and that's change your thinking, change your life. I realized I needed to change my perspective on this whole theme. And remember that part of it is from the 24-hour news machines that we have constantly throwing out sensational titles to lure us in and to begin to start causing fear. There's far more unity than is ever reported on the news. I want to begin by going back to our founder and sharing with you this quote. And I want you to notice with this quote that some of the words are capitalized. Well, that's the way we refer to spirit. And we capitalize it for that reason, that there are more than one ways to express the word God. We think of spirit as absolute, self-conscious intelligence. We think of soul as receptive to intelligence, as always acting upon it. Spirit and soul intersphere each other, and both have omnipresence. That means everywhere present. The spirit of the universe permeates the soul of the universe, forever impregnating it with ideas. The soul of the universe is the holy womb of nature, producing the forms which appear in the manifest universe. I love that word, the holy womb of nature. So what does all this mean? Basically, we live in an interconnected world. Spirit is in us, around us, interjecting ideas and energy. We are pregnant with possibilities and giving birth to our manifested thoughts. We are all made of the same God stuff, and therefore we have an impact on others with our thoughts and actions as we float around in this giant living womb, if you will. So all that God stuff exists in everyone equally. But some people are just perhaps a little bit more aware of it and in tune with it than others. There's no greater in one person or lesser in another. It's been distributed equally. So when we see out there all the unique manifestations of this God energy, this personalized life force, we manifest what we're trying to avoid and what we are longing for. Sometimes, though, we just get a little foggy in our lens department. Perhaps we've gathered a lot of dust of fear, and news flashes also can clog that up. So how do we celebrate our interconnectedness with someone that we haven't really found that much of a connection with? That maybe there's some discord going on. This is where the challenge can be. For those of you who don't know, I fill in some of my weekdays substitute teaching. And I love the lessons that I get from our young people, especially middle school kids who are a slightly different version than us. They are authentic, can be awkward, uncensored, and vulnerable as humans, just like we are. While there are exceptions, in general, I found that they haven't fully matured in certain arenas, especially in a number of areas that I'm going to talk about. But how many of you remember participating in the required middle school dance class that people had to do? Okay, some of you out there. And look, you've survived. That's huge. Well, A while back, I was helping to try and teach a dance, middle school dance class, looked similar to this. And when the students were first instructed to hold hands, the responses range from naturally taking the hands of the partner next to them to dramatically acting like they were going to die if skin-to-skin contact was made. Seriously. Their yuck factors kicked in big time. Some girls desperately tried to pull their sleeves down over their hands so that they could avoid whatever toxic substance was going to affect them. I saw a 6th grader sitting over on the bleachers by himself, and I went and sat next to him, and I asked him why he wasn't dancing. And he looked at me with his wide eyes, and he said he felt like he was going to throw up, that his head was going to explode, and that he had used up all his energy for the day. It was only 9 a.m. Upon returning to the locker room, I overheard 2 girls. One said, "I can't wait to wash my hands." And the other one quickly responded, "I can't wait to chop mine off." Not a whole lot of oneness going on there. In their defense, middle school kids are undertaking a process of transformation. Their bodies are going through such hormonal changes that it's difficult for them to really know who they are from one day to the next. For those of you who've raised them, you know what I'm talking about. There are so many assumptions that they make that life can be kind of confusing maneuvering through this maze of puberty. This month's book is called Beyond Religion: Ethics for a Whole World by the Dalai Lama. Now, speaking of assumptions, when I was very little, I used to think that the Dalai Lama was a stuffed animal that the Buddha played with. Seriously, I wanted my own Dalai Lama. If we begin to see our inner being as that of a maturing spirit, like a kind of middle school spirit, perhaps we can be a bit more tolerant and understanding toward others as well as ourselves. We know that many of us are still growing and developing, often hanging on to long-held beliefs. Buddhism has a segment regarding the 3 levels of understanding. In the classical Buddhist theory of mental transformation, they have 3. 1, understanding derived through hearing or learning, understanding derived through reflection, and understanding derived through contemplative experience. We know that as teens grow and age, they eventually learn to hold hands with the opposite sex or whatever gender they're most afraid of. Through hearing and learning, we come to understand that cooties are mostly figments of our imagination, and they're probably not going to kill us. Now, I want you to think for a moment of something that you heard when you were little that you later found was not true. Perhaps it was a belief that kind of gave you an expression like this when you realized that you were not correct in your facts. So just for a moment, I want you to please turn to somebody next to you or right around you and share what you can of that belief that was later corrected. So just some thought that you had that you later realized was not true. Just take a quick moment. Okay. Hearing the chime. Corral you back in with that. Who would like to throw something out? Some belief they had. I know I didn't give you a whole lot of time. Anybody? Yes. Okay, Reverend Carolyn said that you can get a neck headache from having the car window down that much. Okay. Wow. She just didn't want you sticking your head out the window, it sounds like. Yes. Don't. Okay, don't go to sleep with a wet head. Yes, I like this. Yes. Don't brush your hair outside. That's the way I was told to brush my hair. It's interesting, the different, maybe they wanted to get rid of me more. Okay, moving on. The second concept of understanding is through reflection. As I tried to tell the little sixth grader, as I encouraged him to take some deep breaths, that chances of him dying from dancing with a girl were pretty slim. And I had him reflect on the fact that most of the students he saw dancing were remaining upright and that they didn't have to marry the person they were dancing with. This seemed to relax him quite a bit. Now, please turn to somebody, and I just want you to put your hand next to the person, the palms face up, face down, however you want, but next to the person you're sitting near. You don't have to dance with them. It's okay. And I want you to reflect on one thing that you've both created with your hands. It could be, painting, gardening, raising a child, whatever it was, something that you had in common with that person next to you. So go ahead and just take a moment, please. Okay, let's hear from some people on this side. Anybody? Something that you've, yes. Yes. So she was grabbing your hand. I have to repeat for those out in the viewing land. Okay. Okay. So Kat touches a lot of furry things, and I don't know if I'm translating it right. Okay, and you had that in common, that you both like doing that. Oh, dogs and cats, great, okay. Who else? Quick one that you've both noticed your commonalities through your hands. Yes? Ah, wonderful. So David and Natalie are both photographers, so they've both taken beautiful pictures, which I've seen both of them with your hands. Great. Now the third Buddhist concept is understanding through contemplative experience. As the unit progressed, and after having direct contemplative experiences, it became easier and easier for these teens to not have the initial vitriolic reactions that they had when they first began dancing. Now, I would like you to contemplate something that you have with all the people in this room. Now, we're not going to turn to somebody and talk right now for it, but just think about it. Is it something that, like, maybe you'd like to dress up like a cat or a mime or wear a red cape? Granted, this was taken on Halloween, but think of something that you have in common with people in this room. Anybody want to share? Yes. Well, that comes later. What's in this room right now? Yes, Crystal. What? The faith, yes. Our belief in the science of mind teachings. Great. Now, I want you, well, what do you have in common now with all the people in California? Taxes? Okay. Anything else? Weather? Okay, weather. We have a lot of weather right now. That's a lot of commonality. How about the people on the planet? That's why I was waiting with that one. What do we have in common with the people on planet Earth? Love? Thank you. We're individuals. Yes. Interdependence. Thank you. Shared needs. Perfect. Can stay. I don't need it right now. So just as life progresses, we transform our thinking to go deeper and get to know ideas and understand connections. We don't have the same superficial reactions as we grow as spiritual beings and understand our human adventure together. as we contemplate our place in this universe, we begin to see that we have more in common. Ultimately, we develop insights of our own, which is classified by the Dalai Lama are experiential, spontaneous, and effortless. Have you noticed how babies and small children tend to not see the differences? They just kind of go to everyone, knowing that they're connected. So how do we shift from reacting to our differences, as we often do in puberty, to finding unity with others? How do we mature with wisdom when we can't just accelerate time? Let's look at the basics. I mean, the real basics. Down to our DNA. We have unique DNA to each person, but when compared to other species, there's almost no distinction. When compared to other life forms, we are so connected as humans. In fact, there's almost no separation on a molecular level. Science also confirms this. So when we begin to discover that our thoughts are so similar to others, that we have an impact on life, we begin to pay attention a little bit more. Quantum entanglement was something that Einstein came up with, and he really struggled with this a bit, but it confirms our interconnectedness on a greater scale. Once particles have a connection or bonding, they continue to affect each other and they can communicate messages despite their physical separation and distance. The universe is mysterious, but very consistent in some powerful ways. The Dalai Lama mentions quantum entanglement in his book. He states, "There is interdependence in these theories of the universe. So many aspects are characterized by mutual dependence." He goes on, "Every situation in life arises from a great number of contributing factors. So taking a broad view is essential. It is not enough to look at any given situation or problem from only one perspective." End of quote. Are you overly influenced by the perspective of, say, CNN or Fox News? I encourage you to question any views you have which state that we are separate from others or our Creator. Scientists have shown that when we focus on something in the quantum world, we kind of lock the particles into a certain position just by our observation of them. So basically, we make something that appeared rather random into our truth by our focus on it. Here's a light example, but I never knew that Dollar General stores ever existed until somebody recently pointed one out, and then I began to see them in many places. It's complicated, but by our understanding of some basic laws, we can see that giving something energy and awareness, we get more of it. When we ignore it, we can decrease it or take it off our radar completely. The Newtonian view of life that states, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, is shifting to that of understanding energy, vibration, and deliberate focus. It's not as important to dissect and try and figure out our past as it is to be mindful of our current state of awareness and how much we're feeling in alignment with our source. We've all heard the saying, where attention goes, energy flows. The universe says yes to whatever we're most focused on in the here and now. I might say, I love my life, or I hate my life, or I feel so isolated, or I feel at one with all. We are constantly transmitting a signal on a daily basis. We're just not always aware of it. We attract what we most despise and what we most appreciate. Does anybody have any experience with that memory foam, either by pillow or mattress? Yes? Okay, well, recently, my memory foam mattress had way too much memory, and I fell into my own self-inflicted body rut. Seriously, it was like the walls were smothering me. I had to consciously sit up and make a new pattern. I've done this with my thoughts as well. The past can hold us down if we don't start new mental patterns. In order to see something out there, we must also know there is something inside of us that resonates or responds to that. It's hard to see things that we have no knowledge of or even believe exist. The universe is not punishing you or blessing you. It's reflecting back to you the essence of your thoughts, attitudes, and beliefs. We have to start with ourselves, as that is where we foster our power. It's not about vengeance, about being punished, but it's about clarity and certainty spring out of that deep understanding of these laws of nature. So, getting back to the oneness, when we recognize that we truly are all interconnected, it is not our job to tackle down and fight against the person we hate or the people we hate. If we can instead see the God particles in everyone and in every situation, we then begin to shift the consciousness of the planet to knowing that there is a true essence of God in everyone. That essence or attributes are life, power, joy, love. And as we automatically recognize these qualities in others, we often want to step up and do what needs to be done or help where help is needed. An example of this came a few weeks ago. I was walking on this outdoor track with some kindergartners. All of a sudden, one spotted a few worms. She alerted the others in our small little group about the emergency situation of the worms getting stepped on. The children quickly sprang into action and began to remove the worms from the outer track to the inner grass. One little girl joyfully exclaimed, "Look, the worm likes me. He's hugging my finger." There was no debate about what to do, no yuck factor to overcome. It was just a spontaneous rescue mission. We remember who we are and where we came from. I saw many of you react similarly in your response to helping people with a campfire. You stepped up, you did what needed to be done, and you're still doing it. I honor so many of you out there who have opened your homes and taken in people who have needed it as well. According to quantum physics, as we focus on the connections that we desire, we coalesce energies into new forms of being. It is natural then that we reveal these attributes of God when we look for them in all things, even worms. Michelangelo saw the beautiful body inside the block of marble. He carved away all that was not beautiful body. Nikola Tesla said, "Though free to think and act, we are held together like the stars in the firmament with ties inseparable. These ties cannot be seen, but we can feel them." Take a deep breath in for a moment. Just feel those ties around you. For as we begin to co-create the type of world that we want by focusing on what we have in common, we begin to more quickly demonstrate signs of unity. We can celebrate all these attributes of God that are revealed when we recognize our oneness in others. We have truly evolved from being repelled by sweaty middle school palms to appreciating the creativity and love that we are all capable of. When we recognize that we each contribute something to the whole, we can appreciate our diversity. I'm going to pass around right now some puzzle pieces, and what I want you to do, just take one and pass it back. Here, if you could help with that. And I want everybody just to take one puzzle piece, and we'll figure it out. There's 100 here, so hopefully we'll have enough for everyone. And could you begin the music? And listen, please, to this Janice Stanfield song, which is called We Are One.
Said and done, I am one, we are one. I'm just one drop of rain that falls from the sky, that runs to a stream, then the ocean by and by. And I could do worse than to give myself up.
Did everybody get a puzzle piece? We might have a few extras. Maybe Crystal can take them.
I am one. We are one.
Okay. So, who did not get a puzzle piece? I'll put it that way. Okay, great. Macy, could you please lower that? Next, I want you to hold the puzzle piece up and put it to your chest. Put your hand over it. And I just want you to think about one quality, one gift that you bring to the world with who you are. Maybe it's your smile. Maybe it's your wisdom. Maybe it's your music. Maybe it's your laughter. Preferably just one word. And now, after the service, so you can't lose them between now and after the service, okay? We're going to go into the Books and Bistro, where there's a table set up, and it will have a box on it that reveals the picture we're all creating together. And I also have pins there, and I invite you to just write down that one word if you desire. If not, you could just put it on the table. I know there are some people who love to fit things together. You don't have to stick around for the entire piece to put together, but just set it there if you choose. Because truly, we are a large puzzle that is constantly being filled when we learn and grow together. Our differences are not as great as we think. Let us celebrate our interdependence as we notice where we connect with each other. It is here that we discover our common good. Thank you and namaste.